is Pantry, and today, as you see in the title, we're going to make homemade marinara and we're going to can it up. Now, I did not get the glut of tomatoes I usually get in my garden. I got enough to make a couple large batches of salsa, but that's really all. It just was a bad gardening year. So I decided, because I'm out of marinara, I used my last quart jar of marinara on my brajol recipe. So I thought, you know, I'm just going to make some. And I had everything on hand. Plus, I harvested some more carrots. And I have to tell you, I absolutely love homegrown carrots. It's almost like a homegrown tomato. And you're thinking, you're going to put carrots in your marinara? Well, it adds a layer of sweetness. It doesn't make it taste like carrot, but it is delicious. So I challenge you to go ahead and try it one time. And we're going to do a lot. I'm going to try to get a full canner load here. I've got extra virgin olive oil. That's a have to have. I've got a giant, and I mean it was really giant, onion. I've got a whole bulb of garlic. Now, all of this is going to cook down together until I can puree it. I've also got one can, a number 10 size can, the 6 pounds, is that right? Yeah, 6 pounds, 10 ounces, so almost 7 pounds of tomato puree. I've got 2 of those, and I've got one, let's see, it's 6 pounds, 6 ounces of diced tomatoes. So we're gonna get this in my 12 quart contour pot. I'll try to leave a link to this pot. It's fantastic. Go ahead and get your tomato puree. Now you could use just tomato sauce. This is what I happen to have on hand. And you're thinking, but you're gonna can something that's already been canned? Yes, and it's totally okay. In fact, tomato products are the one thing that actually become more healthy the longer you cook them. It's great for prostate health. So, okay, so we'll get the rest of those in there. Diced tomatoes. More puree. Okay, so I've got my tomato products are in there, and I'm gonna put olive oil. I use olive oil in my marinara, and it's okay to can olive oil in your marinara. So I want a full cup of olive oil in here. And we're already right here as far as how full my pot is, and this is a 12 quart, so there's at least 10 quarts in here. And I want to be able to at least can up 7 quarts. So I may have, you know what, if I've got enough to do another canner load, maybe I'll bring out my little canner. My little All-American. I've got the big girl out today, so I'm going to put down my carrots, and I did not measure these, but I'm guessing that was about 2.5, 3 cups of sliced carrots. And, ooh, yum. Okay. Get the onions and the garlic, and we're going to put oregano and basil. It's going to be delicious. Just so we have sauce back on the shelf, and for very inexpensive. I'm going to figure out the cost for you, and I'll figure out the cost per jar before I'm done with the video, because these cost $2.79 a piece. So we'll add that up. We'll add up, you know, what a cup of olive oil might cost for what I paid for it. And of course the carrots were free. The garlic was free because that came out of my garden. And it was the biggest bulb of garlic that I had, and then I added a little one. But if you're buying it at the store, you want a big head of garlic. And this is, right now it's pretty thick, so I'm gonna get this on the stove, and now we're up a whole nother quart. So I probably will have 2 canners going today. If I can get 11 or 12 quarts of marinara on my shelf, I don't have to worry about it forever. You know, you use it maybe once or twice a month, and it's that many trips. I don't have to go to the store for it, and I'm not wasting I'm super excited. Okay, so I'm gonna get this going. I'm gonna season it up, no salt. These have some sodium to them. Not a whole lot, but they do have salt in here, so I'm not gonna add salt. I'm not worried about the acidity of the tomatoes because they've already been canned safely, but I am worried about the acidity of the carrots. So instead of, if it didn't have any carrots in here, I would can this for 20 minutes. But because of the carrots, we're gonna go to the length of time a carrot needs to can for, and that is 30 minutes in the pressure canner. And for my altitude, it will be with 15 pounds of pressure on it. All right. So let's get going. I'll let you see it once this comes up to a bubble and show you what we do next. So guys, my sauce is ready to puree. I've already taken out about 7 cups of the sauce here, and I went ahead and pureed it up so I could see, and we're ready for basil. Once I get the basil all chopped up and in here, I'm gonna go ahead with the immersion blender and puree the contents of the pot now that I've got it down, because I did add a couple quarts of water when I cleaned out my cans of sauce, and this was really too thick. So note to self, you're gonna need some water. And I pureed, or I let it simmer real slow for a couple of hours till the carrots are soft and tender, and the onions are soft, the garlic is soft, everything, and you can smell marinara in the house. So anyways, got some cleaning done, and now we're ready to can. I'm gonna get this pureed up, and we'll add the basil, and then we'll start jarring it up. And the basil, I'm just gonna chop it up really fine, stir it on in, and then we're ready to go. And I'm gonna need a second canner, so. Okay, so I've got my jars, I've got my hot jars out of the dishwasher. I run hot soapy water through them, hand wash them, then I run them through the sanitize session. And I've got a bowl of vinegar, which will go in my canner after I'm done. I need a paper towel to wipe the rim of my jar. And the sauce is thick and it's just beautiful. It's so good. So I'm excited to put this on my shelf, and we will have this for all winter. And I don't have to think about it again. Even it took a little, bit of effort this afternoon, but not near as much as if I had to use fresh tomatoes. And being I didn't get any out of my garden, enough to do this, I'm very thankful. To 1 inch of headspace, and that's standard for pressure canning. Pressure canning, these jars go under a tremendous amount of pressure, and so you don't want to overfill and have too much headspace, or you can buckle your lid. Let's dip this in the vinegar here. And this is just going to take anything off the rim, do a last once over with your fingertip. Make sure there's no nicks or cracks or irregularities that you didn't notice before. And I'm using on a couple of these, I've got a combination of ball lids, Tattlers, which is right here, and Orchard Road lids, which I've had good success. So, okay, so you tighten with a Tattler lid, and these are the older ones, and then you back it off just a little bit, because even your metal lids have to be able to vent during that process, or you can have a jar buckle. It just, let it happen, and then when you take these out of the canner, you go ahead and crank them down. But I've done it where I have not touched them, and they seal anyway. So the ring is merely to keep the lid in place until the processing time. And part of your processing time, this is one of my hints for canning, is the heat up and the cool down. You need all of that. You can't rush it. All right, I'm gonna put this one in the canner to wait for the rest. And I'll bring it in close so you can see how thick and delicious this looks, but it's beautiful. And if you wanted to take, and get any air bubbles out, but being as it's liquid, I doubt very much I'll have any, but you can see the bits of basil in there. Beautiful. All right. Okay, look how thick this is going into the jars. It's a beautiful, thick marinara. It's gonna be great for pastas, pasta dishes, start for your spaghetti if you wanted to put meat. And my thoughts on, I've canned spaghetti sauce with meat in it. I do not like the results. I feel like the meat taste, or the sauce itself tastes burnt, and it has an off flavor to me. I'm not a fan of that. Now, if you are, that's great. But the other thing is, I can can up some ground beef or Italian sausage and open an extra jar, or I can keep it vegetarian, which quite often is exactly what the doctor ordered. So there you go. Here's another quart jar going in the canner. Tattler lid, you tighten it and then back off just a smidge, just enough to let it vent. Look at how pretty with the basil, and oh my gosh, guys, it's gorgeous. All right, let's get these in the canner, and then we're probably gonna have to load up the other canner. Okay guys, so I've got both canners full, and literally this could have made probably 13 quarts, maybe 14, I don't know. Because I've got 7 in the big canner, and I've got 4 quarts in here, but this little canner will fit an additional jar. It will fit a 1.5 pint size jar, which when you're using those, you need to time it as if it was a quart anyway. And so I went ahead and put that in there. And then we have another 1.5 quarts maybe of sauce that is in the refrigerator to use for a meal later this week. Absolutely delicious. And I'm telling you, it doesn't taste like carrots, but those carrots add an element of sweetness that cut the acid in those tomatoes beautifully. So these are going to come up to pressure. Now, I live at 4,300 feet above sea level, so I need 15 pounds of pressure. So guys, my canning is all done, and I've got these lids ajar. They came down off of pressure, and I just open them and leave it ajar for a while, just so they can kind of come down off of pressure a little bit. I don't think there's a big rush. I used to rush into it and I couldn't wait to take them out of the canner, but I feel like I get less liquid evacuation out of the jar if I do it this way, and regulate my temperature carefully. It's those temperature changes up and down that make the difference. So the little canner got up to pressure, obviously, a little sooner than the big canner, and I'm okay with that. I set a timer on the stove, then when the big canner comes up, I put a timer on my phone, good to go. Anyways, and this is still boiling in there, really. Oh, let's see what we got. Oh, beautiful. Do not tip your jars. And the reason I say that is because if you tip your jars, these still, the lid itself is still fluctuating up and down. You take a risk of putting product and oil, there's olive oil in here, up under that seal. So we don't want to do that. If we don't have to, even though it happens in the canning process, we don't want to do it additionally at the end. So don't tip your jars. Whatever water's on the top will evaporate, or you can dab it off with paper toweling if it bugs you. So don't tip your jars, bring them out of the canner. Ugh. So we got 11 quarts and 1.5 pints to put on the shelf, which is fantastic. I'm excited. Now here's a Tattler lid, and I'm looking at it, and it's puffed up pretty good. I'm gonna leave it alone. I don't always crank them down. If I look at it and I don't feel like I need to, I'm gonna leave it alone, and I've never had a fail. I only really use the Tattlers though for water bath or for pressure canning. So I think they do better under the pressure canning process. So let me get the rest of the jars out, and then we'll take a last. All of my jars out of the canners, and this looks and smells amazing in here. When you look in your water, you're going to see a little bit of residue, but not much, because I really felt like I regulated the temperature changes. So they still are very much under pressure, and so they're going to be we got jar sealing, but you're gonna see that they're gonna be above your headspace. Once they calm down and cool down, that will shrink back down, and hopefully we keep that 1 inch of headspace or just under that. And jars are sealing, that's a good sign. And guys, for pennies, 78 cents a jar is what I calculated, plus the one I have in the fridge for, because there's at least a quart, probably over a quart. So I easily could have made 13 quarts of sauce. But this is plenty to put on my shelf. This will last us for months, and it'll save us some money, and I know what went into it, and it's my homemade stuff. So guys, I hope it inspires you to go ahead. If you're not canning your own stuff, go ahead and start. It's a great investment in your family's nutrition, in what you put on your shelf, and you don't have to go shopping all the time. I don't have to shop for marinara for a long time. All right, guys, I can't wait to see you next time, and I hope this inspires you to start your own home canning if you're not already doing it. If you are, let me know what you're canning this week. And to me, every day of the year is canning season, because you never know when you might get a little, I think I better make some marinara or something else. All right, guys. I'll see you next time for another delicious recipe canning session, or I don't know, maybe there'll be a recipe with this involved. All right, guys, go check the links. Check the art card above, because I used my homemade marinara in the last recipe for brajol.